So Fabio Wardley defends his British and Commonwealth heavyweight titles against Fraser Clark this Sunday. Yes, Sunday, not Saturday. We have a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, so this fight will be taking place on Sunday. I'm looking forward to this fight. I've got to be honest, it's not really a fight that has been on my radar at all. I haven't been counting down the days or anything like that, but as it's getting closer, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a decent fight. I quite like Fabio Wardley. I think he's doing exceptionally well given his lack of experience. Um, you know, he's the champion, British champion, Commonwealth champion. He's doing well considering that he had virtually no amateur experience. And I think he's getting better with every fight. And on top of that, he's just entertaining. He has this almost trademark ability where if he's behind in a fight, if he's being outboxed, if he's up against, some resistance, he pushes back really hard and he just goes into this berserker mode and he has these flurries and he gets guys out of there. And yeah, it's maybe there'll be a time where it doesn't get him out of trouble, but so far, he's not doing too bad. In his last fight, he beat David Adelaide. I picked Adelaide to win that fight, despite the fact that I like Fabio Wardley as a fighter. I just thought that Adelaide would be a bit too experienced. I thought he'd be a bit just better technically, and I thought he'd be able to frustrate Wardley, which I feel like in spots we did see that. There were times where Adelaide had his own success, but ultimately that will, that determination, but also the athleticism of Fabio Wardley really was able to chip away at Adelaide. And he's been in against other much more experienced guys as well, like Michael Coffey, Nathan Gorman, Nick Webb. These are all good, solid fighters. And Fabio Wardley has dealt with them, and in some instances dealt with them in pretty emphatic fashion. So with Wardley, I think there's a lot to like there. And so to see him fight, yeah, I'm up for it. It's usually thrills and spills and entertainment for however long it lasts. But then going to Fraser Clark, he's a fighter I'm not so familiar with. I'm, of course, aware of who he is. I've seen some of his fights. I've seen his amateur fights, dotted around when he's been at major competitions. And of course, that's kind of the elephant in the room is he's a very high-level amateur. Tokyo Olympics bronze medalist, 2018 Commonwealth gold medalist, travelled the world with Team GB and was in good company while doing so. Of course, we know he's a stable mate of Joe Joyce and Anthony Joshua for a long time. So, he's earned his stripes as an amateur. And I guess he's kind of on like a semi-fast track because, of course, he's like 32 years old now, so he needs to get a move on. 8-0, and he's already going for the British and Commonwealth titles. And despite that, there are a lot of people who are of the opinion that Fraser Clark is no good. They think he's useless. They say there's no point. He's too old. He's not good enough. He should go back to doing security at boxing events. I think that's a little bit harsh. And look, you're entitled to your own opinion. That's fair enough. But me personally, from what I've seen of Clark, I think he's decent. I think there is some substance there. And I actually think he has the tools to potentially be a little bit of a handful for Fabio Wardley and frustrate him at times in this fight. Because with Fraser Clark, he's a big man, but I don't think there's going to be a massive size difference between the two. But I like Fraser Clark's poise, particularly in his last fight against Dave Allen. And I'm aware Dave Allen is beyond washed up, and even on his day he wasn't great. But, just call it the eye test. I like the way Fraser Clark is kind of, I like the way he holds himself. He's nothing jumps out at you, but there's quite a measured approach from Fraser Clark. I think he's got some good fundamentals. He's got a good variety of shots. He's relatively accurate. And I think that's enough. That kind of fundamental base that he has is enough to maybe give Wardley some trouble in spots, maybe outbox him a little bit, particularly at long range. However, with Fraser Clark I think he has a tendency to switch off in the clinches, because in that fight against Allen, his trainer had to remind him lock his arms up, tie Allen up on the inside, because there were moments where Fraser Clark just seemed to, as I say, switch off in a clinch and almost got chin checked by Allen. Allen would grab one of his arms, throw a hook round the side, and Clark was just upright, chin in the air, waiting for the referee to break. And it's like, no, you're in a clinch, but it's still all systems go. You still got to fight or defend, do something, but stay switched on. And on top of that, I don't think he's the biggest puncher. I mean, he's a big man. You wouldn't want to let your chin hang out in front of him, and he might knock you over. But I don't think, as heavyweights go, I don't think he's the biggest heavyweight puncher. But most costly, I think it will be for him is his defensive responsibility, or lack thereof, kind of linking to him switching off in the clinches. He's got a decent jab. He gets some good extension on it. It looks like a solid shot. It's pretty accurate. But I think he's vulnerable when he throws it, because it doesn't seem to be all that difficult to time over Clark's jab. And with Wardley, I think he's athletic enough. I mean, we saw against Adelaide, and Adelaide, he was quick in that fight. Adelaide looked really sharp, particularly with the left jab and the left hook. But even when Adelaide was timing that jab fairly well, we can see Wardley just has that athletic instinct, I want to say, and he's quite explosive, he's quite sharp, and he's just able to pull counter it. And the technique's a little bit rough. I think that's one of Wardley's biggest shortcomings, is his technique is a little bit rough around the edges. Sometimes he gets himself in some really funky positions where you just think, can you really do anything effectively from there? And it just makes me wonder, if he's in against an opponent who's going to maybe throw more than one shot, even if they miss one, maybe Wardley will get caught off. Maybe Clarke is that guy, maybe not. Personally, I think Fabio Wardley's going to win this fight. I think he will struggle at points. I think Clarke will probably use his fundamentals. Nothing too exciting, no special effects. There's some decent measured footwork, some good jabs, maybe some long shots. But I do think eventually, after maybe taking a few heavy jabs, I think Wardley's going to maybe get the timing down and probably get his own jab off, and maybe get the right hand into play over Clarke's jab. And I think that's going to be quite costly. Although I don't see it, I can envisage how the fight would end early. Maybe Wardley wobbles Clarke and flies in like we see him do. But I personally think that this one's going to go rounds. I think if Wardley does get a stoppage, it might be after 8 rounds, so fairly late in the fight, well into the last third of the fight probably. But I think the smart money is probably Wardley on points. I'm assuming, I mean, it's a big assumption, but I was going to assume that Clarke might be able to, if he gets hurt, if he gets dropped, he might just be able to survive, and just try and see out the fight. But we shall see. But for now, I'm pretty confident that Wardley wins this fight. I think he either wins by late stoppage or on points. Probably a comprehensive UD. But yeah, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Who you're picking and how and why. Leave your comments in the comment section below. For now, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.